Let's do that. Going into the weekend, just take a couple of minutes out to think about, thankfully, the opportunities that are there for us, having the opportunity to really understand where we are when it comes to money in our financial empowerment and education movement. So again, for those of you I'm just meeting for the first time, Richard Harden, and I was born and raised here in Atlanta, Georgia, did all the things they said to do, went off to school, got my degrees from Duke University, and got out into the workplace thinking that I was in pursuit of the American dream, but found myself slap dab in the middle of the American nightmare. How many of you can relate to having done the things they said to do, climbing the corporate ladder, figured out that thing was leaning against the wrong building, and even more so, as I was making the money, it felt like the financial success that I wanted wasn't coming to me. And what I found was it wasn't just me. How many of you can relate to just being in a place where they say the more you make, the more they take? But what I got to understand as a grown man is that's not just a saying, like that's a reality. And the question that I, never thought to ask early on was, who in the hell are they? Who are they? And what can I do to keep them from getting my money? So we're going to break those things down in today's conversation. But the 4 blocks that anybody has when it comes to the flow of cash into and out of their lives, this is them. If you want to know where the money is, they got it. Taxes, debt, inflation, and big business. And I'm never one of those people not to make sure to understand the enemy before jumping into a fight. Because here's the reality. Taxes, for most Americans, is their biggest bill. They get taxed up front. It comes out of the check even before the check gets to the house. So you got gross, you got a whole bunch of other people getting paid to then go to work, and then you got net left over. And for most people, that causes a situation where, because there's not the money coming into the house, we find ourselves having to borrow money just to get the house. And that's where debt comes in. Because think about it, if we weren't taxed so heavily, we'd have more money left, yeah? But here's what happens. Debt is skyrocketing now because of inflation. The cost of everything is going up so much over the past, I say 10 to 20 years. If you look back at what a home today is selling for versus what it cost just 5 or 10 years ago, costs are going up. But for most people, put this in your notes, they don't have any control over their income, and their income isn't going up. So you got the dynamic where the checks already cut based on taxes. Inflation is biting out, making the dollars that we have worth less. And then the biggest thing that big business markets to all of us is ways to borrow money. So in getting our financial house in order, even though those are what the physical roadblocks are, I always tell people it's a process. Like as you learn things, we specialize in providing people that financial makeover. Now, what's in our 6-figure playbook? It's simple. We get 3 things down and we drive 3 things up. We get the taxes down, get the debts down, get the expenses down. And believe it or not, you know what, Lisa, when those 3 things down, doesn't your stress go down? But at the same time, we help credit scores, income, and cash flow go up, cultivating that attitude of abundance that we have more than enough. And we have a team of experts that help us first understand the situation that we're in, but second, to get out of that situation. Am I making sense so far? So thinking about where we left off last week. Last week, we talked about the whole process of getting your financial house in order, foundation, writing a written budget. And in recap for written budget, if you missed last week, you can go back and find the video. But what we focus on is when you're building your budget for wealth, you got to specify and maximize your income, list your expenses and minimize them, subtract the expenses from the income, and then apply anything extra to your next goal. Now, what is your next goal? It depends on where you are in getting your financial house in order, because everybody's personal situation is different, but then you got to track your spending and then rebudget every month based on what happened. And our team of experts actually helps with the process. Now, I know somebody's out there saying, well, for experts to help with all that kind of stuff, it must cost millions of dollars. Well, what it does cost is millions of dollars not to have help. But You know what? I think that's it. That's the simplest thing that somebody that's in trouble could do is ask for help. But so what I promised this week was we're going to talk specifically about the mini emergency fund and getting out of debt. This is something that we have to understand. If our goal is to create wealth, we got to get out of debt. We got to stop borrowing money and, putting things in order. So we're going to focus in on that area today in getting out of debt. And this is the analogy I had. Like, I wish when I started my finance journey, somebody had explained this picture to me more clearly. Because if the goal, think of wealth as a bucket. And in that wealth bucket, it's enough for overflow. It's more than enough. Now, when will this bucket get full? Never. It's never going to get full. There's a hole in the bucket. But here's my reality was I started doing what people around me were doing when I started working. So on the college campus at Duke, Discover had a table where they were signing up college kids for the Discover card. What did we all discover? And none of us have a job. We didn't understand credit, and it's actually a process of catching people while they're young. While their brain's not even fully developed, but then that put us in a position where that was a debt. And most of the stuff, honestly, that was on my Discover card, I don't even know what it was. Anybody ever buy something on a credit card and you look back and like, how did the balance get here? But then through life, once we started getting cars and buying houses, all of these things just kept adding to the debt column. And suddenly the taxes were coming, taking the money off the top. And by the time we sat down I remember just being angry enough to be in tears. When you mad crying, like adding up the budget and seeing by the time we paid the mortgage and the car notes and the insurance, it was barely enough money left to buy food. And that keeps the cycle going where now you have people that are literally check to check, sometimes check behind the check. And the way that we fix it is we got to plug the holes in the debt bucket. So what's our scripture for today? Book of Proverbs. What is that? That's chapter 22, verse 7. It says, the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. How many of y'all know that's true? Like legal slavery, as far as being owned by someone, ended years ago. But in all reality, if somebody determines where you can live, when you can wake up, and how you spend your money, they have some control over your life. That makes sense? So we're going to break the chains of debt just by understanding the power of interest. Now, we've talked about the banker's secret before, but I don't think we've done that in a money lunch series in quite a while. Let's make sure that everybody understands why interest is important and the rates. Because here's what happens. Mentally, all percentages sound small, don't they? If somebody says, it's 12%, it's 6%, it's 8%, those only sound like variances in degree. But if you put in your notes that the superpower when it comes to money, this is what Albert Einstein said. He said that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. If you understand it, you get paid it. If you don't understand it, you pay it. So thankfully, I've got three folks on the line. Let's use Yaz, Morgan, and Lisa as examples using what we call the banker's secret to understand the money math in the banker's secret. Does that make sense? So I'm going to give each of you a gift. Now, looking at your faces, this might not be the same gift it would be to me. I'm going to give you a new birth date, give you some cash, and I'm going to give you a guaranteed return on your money. How's that sound? So gift number one, $10,000 cash. If you got $10,000 cash today, how many people would be smiling about it? Second thing, you got a new birthday. As of today, you're 29 years old. Now, Morgan being only 15, 29 means I've accelerated your age, but 29 years of age, and each of you will have an interest rate. So in order of faces I see on the camera, Yaz will put you at 4. Write your number down so that you remember, because I might forget. Morgan at 6, Lisa at 12. Got it? So let's look at the worksheet. You can work these out with me because here's a magic. People get tricked into thinking that money's hard, but money math is not that hard. They just don't focus on it in school so that we walk away with an understanding. Because think about this. They call it the rule of 72. And the way the rule of 72 works is that if you take an interest rate and divide 72 by that number, so you take 72 divided by the interest rate, that's how long it takes the value of what was borrowed to double. Does that make sense? So 72 divided by the interest rate, your money double. Now, Yaz, did we say you get 4%? Okay, so pull out my handy dandy calculator. What's 72 divided by 4?
18.
18. So that money doubles every 18 years. Siri was telling me, you know, I don't even know if kids know multiplication tables these days. Phone's too smart. But every 18 years, that $10,000 that we gave Yaz will double. So at age 29 starts out with 10,000. 10,000 doubled by age 47, that's $20,000. Yes? And then doubled again by age 65, that's $40,000. Now, is that good? Think about it this way. That's much better than the banks are doing right now. Like if you walk into any bank that we could walk into in Atlanta, Georgia today, there's no bank paying more than 1/2 of 1%. So it's 8 times better than what the money's doing in the bank today. But real talk, if you only got $40,000 at 65, this is where you start seeing those stories on 60 Minutes with people eating alcohol, right? Now, you go to the next level though, 6%. Now, Morgan will give you the 6% interest rate. Remind me, 72 divided by 6 gives us 12. That money doubles every 12 years. Now, intuitively, we all know that a 6% interest rate is better than a 4% interest rate. But what I don't think most of us are taught to understand is how much better. Like if it's a 2% difference, Lisa, if you had to guess, how much more money would Morgan end up with than Yaz? In my mind, I was like, well, she had 40, 6% more, maybe it's 50 or 60, right? But think about it. The money has more time to work. So 10,000, by the time you double it 12 years later at 41, she has 20,000. And by the time you double it again at 53, she has 40,000. And then by the time you get to age 65, it's $80,000. It's twice as much money when the rate of return was only 2% higher. Because the rate of return means how fast that thing turns around. But then you mess around and understand this. Lisa, we said 12% interest rate for you, right? Now, 72 divided by 12 gives us 6. That means that money doubles every 6 years. So that 10,000 you start off with at 29 becomes 20,000 by the time you're 35 and 40,000 by the time you're 41. You've already matched what somebody with a 4% interest rate had, and you still got a lot of investment window to go, right? Because you take 20,000, double it again by 47, she's at 80,000, now caught up to Morgan, and then bam, by 53, you double that, that's 160,000. That's more than both of them together, and we still got time left. By the time you multiply this thing out, 160 times 2 is 320, and then $640,000 off the same $10,000. If we didn't really understand interest, we understand the power of money being able to move faster at a higher rate. But now here's our reality. The bank, oh, so congratulations, Lisa. How you feel about your $640,000?
Yeah.
Now here's the reality though. Real talk, bank is not paying anybody 12%, yes?
Right.
But they are getting paid 12%. How many of you know somebody with a credit card where the interest payment on the credit card is 12% or more?
Yes.
I've seen people with credit card interest rates as high as 30%. So the bank is, think about what a bank does. They take our money, they loan it out. They make it a credit card, they make it a mortgage, they make it an auto loan. They're making the money while we have to let the money sit there if we don't have experts to give us an alternative. But think about this. Let's say that you were getting that the 40,000 was here. Keeping the money in the bank is actually a $600,000 decision in favor of the bank. See, by loaning the money 10 times, the bank is earning $600,000 if they were paying for, but they're making even less. And I just say, I put those things up front to say, well, when it comes to banks and bankers, understand everything that's in our debt column is in their asset column. The money that we pay for student loans, for mortgages, for credit cards, that's where they make their profit. So today I want to break down and reverse the curse. That's what Morgan talked about earlier, is just think of this idea. Our debt is their passive income. And it's a funny term out there in the industry. And by the way, think about two things that you can do to improve your process when it comes to debt. The first thing we can do is lower your interest rate. And the second thing we can do is shorten the time that you pay. And this is what I want people to understand. So let's understand debt, because has anybody ever heard the word good debt? But doesn't it seem kind of funny, like good and debt in the same sentence? But here's how you break down debt by categories. There's secured debt, unsecured debt, revolving debt, non-revolving. Just for perspective, think about secured debt. What it's secured to is the bank. You have something that the bank thinks is worth enough money that if you don't pay, they'll take your stuff. So a mortgage is a secured loan, meaning they're going to make their money or you'll be homeless. Or a car. How many of you have seen somebody where they owned a car, but they owed somebody money and somebody came and got that car? They call that the repo man, right? Secured debt in general has the lowest interest rates on credit reports. It's treated better than unsecured debt. Now, where does unsecured debt come? Student loan is a great example of unsecured debt. I feel like my kids' student loans, Morgan, is like a mortgage, but there's no house attached to it. It's still a comma and some zeros, but I got a piece of paper for it. I mean, not that I don't value their education. Let's keep it in perspective. But if I had it to do over again, I would have found a way to pay for college differently. That makes sense? And then medical bills, who's had a sudden medical emergency, and suddenly you figure out the good insurance that you thought you had doesn't cover what you needed it to cover. That's another category of unsecured debt. The service has already been rendered. They don't necessarily have a way to come back to you, but they do have aggressive means of collecting from you, and they mark up your credit really bad. How many of you notice that? And then revolving and non-revolving debt. So revolving debt, credit card. You pay up the balance, you can borrow money again. You pay up the balance, you can borrow money again. It's on a rotating wheel so that it's always going out. And then non-revolving debts, these are things, both mortgages and student loans have the same non-revolving feature where they figured out ahead of time how much money they're going to make from you before you ever borrow a dollar. And because we're working a lot with people in the real estate profession, the process that we go through, I did not make it up. It's called a debt snowball. But here's my frustration. Once I figured out how bad debt was, yes, I was out there trying to pay off everything at the same time. We had student loan over here, credit card over there, mortgage over there. Anytime I got a check, I was chopping up that check, sending it 5 different ways until I learned about the debt snowball. Now, the philosophy is straightforward and simple. The first thing that you got to do is get mad at your debt. I mean, mad. Like, don't be okay with it. Be like, man, you are taking my money every day in exchange for a thing that I need. So here's what we do. You start with the smallest debt and pay it off. Then you take what you were paying to that one and pay off the next smaller debt. And then continue budgeting in a way that every one of your bills gets paid off in order so that at the end you're debt free, including everything and the house. Now, I knew the theory. I understood how it was supposed to work, but how many of you find yourselves busy and stressed and have people calling you about stuff? Working with our team of experts, one of the things that we have is a debt elimination strategy that takes all of the figuring out of the debt elimination process. It actually automates the debt snowball so that you put in what you owe, what you pay, and the interest rate on it. And they do something that's amazing to me. They share with you what the creditors have planned for us. Because what most people don't realize is that creditors have a plan for us to be in debt for them forever, right? Oops, am I in the right? That's not the right PowerPoint. Okay, hang on. But as we skip through, so think about this. With our debt elimination program, and I'm not the only one, since I've been talking, let me give some other people an opportunity to share what's happened for them here. Morgan, Yaz, are you in a place to talk about what debt elimination did for you while I grab that slide?
Yeah, I can go ahead and I'll definitely be happy to share what they were able to do for me. With my debt and everything before coming into MWR, I had student loans like you were talking about, because them things just don't seem to go away. But I had student loans, credit cards, and a mortgage. I would have been in debt for 84 years. And thankfully, due to the experts, I will be debt-free in less than 9 years. So I'll now be debt-free by May of 2030 instead of 3 generations from now.
Wow.
So it's pretty awesome.
And that's literally generational. Like when we talk about the curse, I think it gets so easy to borrow money that people don't know, sometimes don't understand what they're signing up for. But Morgan, did you say 84 years?
Yes, 84 years. And then they had the nerve to add on 11 months. Like the 11 months is going to make a difference. But yeah, 84 years down to 9.
Down to 9. So saving 3 generations of payments. And then here's the blessing. They looked at the money that you're making now and the current creditors plan. They gave you a plan using the same money. Like it didn't require you to refinance anything or work any extra jobs or make any additional money, but that saved you 75 years. And what would you guess? How many hundreds or how many thousands of dollars did that save you?
And on the interest side of it, it saved me over $113,000, which is crazy because the original debt is not $100,000. So like interest will definitely eat you up. So now instead of me paying them an extra $100,000, now I got all that money back and that time back for me to be able to invest and actually be able to leave something for my kids instead of just leaving my debt behind and say, here you go, pay for this, even though you can't use it.
So and that's the most important part, in my opinion, in our roadmap to wealth, is thinking about, well, where am I? Because anybody's journey starts with where they are and what they've done. What can I do and how can I speed up the process? But it gives that directional assist. And then, Yaz, you said you could share as well?
Well, I just had a comment on the banker's secret. I noticed with the higher interest rate return on your money, it seems like, it gets you more money, but it also buys back some time. So that's what was exciting for me, with these principles and stuff. And then also I found this clip when you were talking about the way things are going up and inflation and all this stuff. You guys know I'm in real estate. I just had a client actually decide not to move from Texas to Georgia and decided to go to the Carolinas instead to build instead of here, because how much things are going up so much here in Atlanta. Like right now, they're saying the average rent is $1,500, up 17% over the last year, and twice the national average increase.
Wow. Atlanta used to be known for low cost of living, but that's been a part of everything that's happened this last 2 years. Everything's gone up, double-digit inflation, but you got to ask, for most people that don't have control of their income, they don't have a way to match the growing cost of living. So you find people that at least they made a hard choice. But think about the things that we do in context. So if you think about helping people get the debt down, like Like Morgan, that increases cash flow, meaning more of her check now goes to her family than to the banks. But the second thing that we do, our part of our system is this credit restoration process. Now, people, when I first started, I'll say honestly, I was not as concerned about my credit score because I didn't intend to borrow any more money, right? What I didn't realize is how much the rates were tied to my credit score, so that working with our team, they got me in the credit range up to 821. So I'd always been high sixes, low sevens. But once I got 821, prices started going down, meaning we were able to refinance. This house went from like a 5.75 to a 3% interest rate. You already saw the difference between 6% and 4% in the Banker's Secret. That's the only thing we can do to get our interest rates down. And it was kind of interesting conversation I was having with Mario Henry the other day. And he said, Richard, think about the way that the system and the industry is set up. Who benefits from you having a bad credit score? Write this down. The banks. They have justifiable data for them to be able to say, I should charge you more because your credit's bad. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm just saying it's what it is. So if we already know that the system is stacked against us, we need to ally our army with us so that they put together a plan for you like they did for me. Like Morgan and I are just talking about the things that the team has done for us. We got receipts, right? It says right here clearly, I was going to be paying these same student loans, mortgages, and the credit card 24 more years. But with our plan now down to, at this point, it was 7 years. Now, 6 years from now, I'll be debt free. And then over the next 12, have an extra $1 million, taking that same money and investing it. Our experts showed us how to do that. Does that make sense? And then that'll save me 16 years, $276,000 in interest. And I'll pay like it's $4 a day for access to the team. And beyond that, just by telling people what the experts did for us, they pay us more money. We teach people how to get a raise and pay from their job, so they got more to add to their snowball to pay off the debt. And then every month you get a statement that tells you this is how you run the play to get out of debt in record time. And then the last thing is that we make sure that people understand the power of your cash flow, having your bills as low as possible, and then being in a position where we're able to dump debt forever. All right. So that takes us right to 12. Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. Good debt versus bad debt. Turns out they're all bad. What's good about good debt is actually defined by the bank because they guaranteed their profit. What do I mean? On a credit card or a revolving debt, if you pay it off, they don't make any more money. Yes? But think about the biggest purchase that most people make is their home, right? Check this out. I was messing around with this calculator earlier. Let me see if I can find it again. Here we go. This is on bankrate.com. It's an amortization schedule. Oh, by the way, amortized debt, that root word in the middle of amortized, mort, means death. Is the same word that's in mortuary, and mortician is in a mortgage. They intend for us to pay this bill forever and die. So if you think about what would you say right now is the price on a house here in Atlanta? Go with 250, yes?
Man, at least 300 now.
Okay, let's go with a $300,000 home, right? And that's not fancy, right?
That's very average.
But we take a 30-year mortgage loan and calculate what that would be just on a 4.5% interest rate. This is just the example that they had on the screen for. So $300,000, 30-year mortgage, 4.5% interest. You pay $1,520 a month in principal and interest. That doesn't include taxes or insurance, right? Just principal and interest, $1,520. You see this right here? You pay $300,000 for the house, but you pay $247,000 for the money. I mean, and I think that's why they sit us down at that hypnotic closing table, signing up. And the worst thing is if you look at the schedule, It's front-ended for them. Like the bank is guaranteeing themselves, if you pay exactly according to their schedule, you'll pay them $247,000. But look at the payment. Payment is made of two things, principal and interest. Out of that $1,500, only $400 went to pay off the house. $1,100 of that payment went to the bank's profit. What do they do with this $1,100? They loan it to somebody else. And they keep our cycle in money. And as a matter of fact, I scrolled through this thing. Do you know that the break-even point for this is like 15 years? It takes up to, where are we? It took us up to the first 15 years of this mortgage to get to where we were paying. Oh, there it is right there. 2031. If we start a mortgage payment today, we'll be 10 or 11 years into the loan before even the amount that we're paying in interest is more than we're paying in profits to the bank. Understand, this good debt is good for them. With our equity max plan, it takes a 30-year mortgage, shows you how to pay it off in 8, 6, right? You put that together with lower credit scores, and by the way, making some serious extra money by helping other people get their money back from the banks, the taxes, and the IRS. That's why we win. That's why we're excited on here every Friday talking about money at lunchtime. So make sure, if you like what you heard but want to know more, make sure to text the person that invited you to this conversation to become a part of the movement. What movement? EDM. It's the extra digit movement. It's our goal to increase your worth 1 digit at a time, month after month, by getting the debts down, the bills down, getting the expenses down, but getting that credit score up, getting the cash flow up, and getting our investments up. That's how we shift from being victims of the banker's secret to being bankers ourselves. All right? Oh, that's right. That's a good point. Morgan mentioned we're getting together. We're having an all weekend virtual conference starting tonight, actually. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we'll have people from around the country coming together to learn the mindset. We focus on 3 things at Game Changer: mindset, message, and your money. The mindset of a millionaire is totally different than what we're taught in schools. So we spend time together getting to know one another, getting to understand how we work, and then at the same time, learning the things that they don't teach about money, making money, saving money, and growing money in school, because it's just not a topic. You know what? I think they just don't know. So Game Changer, get together, shoot a text message, send a smoke signal or a carrier pigeon, but whatever it is, we're in the game already. It's just time for us to change it so that it works in our favor. All right, with that said, all hearts and minds clear?
I just have one last comment.
Jump in.
I mean, after that last example you just showed, everyone is just sold this dream, you know, like you always talk about the American dream, the picket fence, the house, and all of that. In that example, you clearly are buying 2 houses, but only getting 1. Yeah. Why do we keep going for, you know, this trickery or this game when we should be really, in my opinion, investing in real estate and a property before we even buy a house? That's my, you know, I'm not the expert, but that's my own personal opinion. Invest, get some capital, get some money up, because with that way, you're just taking on a huge debt. What if something comes up and one day you can't pay for that debt?
They got a house. I mean, it's secure. So what they say when it's a secured debt, your payment is secured by your property. And if for any reason you can't pay, they have all the payments that you've made and they got your house.
Yep.
Man, hey, it's a game out there being played. We just got to look at it from a different perspective. It would be better to be the bank than to build their bank. Let's make sure that we get together around all the things that we can do to get ourselves to the other side of money. What's that side? Is the side where the conversation about lack thereof is no longer our concern, because we have money working for us instead of just being at work for money. Happy Friday. This has been Money Lunch with the crew. See y'all next week. Let's eat. We building a table. Peace up.
Peace up. A-Town down.